of feel a little guilty for something that I said last episode, which was I don't even know any Jewish people. Well, that was a lie. That's not what I said. I said I didn't grow up with them, which was an objective observed fact. I don't know any. Yeah. But then I'm like, let me look that up because I don't want to just be talking to be talking. And so lo and behold, I look it up and there's very small. There wasn't one of the names of the places in Iowa that popped up as having a large Jewish population. So that made sense. I'm like, yeah, people, like I said, Columbus Catholic High School was my cousin had a Jewish friend there, um, wealthy enough to pay tuition. And in the United States, the Jewish population is sits above the median and mean social economic status. So they're in shorter terms, they're richer than most people in the United States as well. They actually are the richest subgroup that exists in the United States collectively. And so I was thinking in Columbus Catholic High School, I met the lady, I forget her name from the Green Party. She was super sweet, but she was also from Waterloo. She went to Columbus Catholic, which was a school that I got fired from for being pregnant and not married. The clause that I broke, again, don't quote me on the contract words specifically. Since we're talking 2014, I got fired. 2013, I got fired. First job out of college. And it was the white people. They was calling and being nosy, and the secretary, they needed to know. They needed to know. The other Spanish teacher was pregnant too, and she was married. That was where the rumor started. Not going to go back into that history too much, but she did go to the school, and so did this kid go to the school that I got fired from. And the clause I broke was involuntarily or voluntarily provoking others to sin. There was two clauses. That was the one I remember the most. The irony of that is if a child gets pregnant, they cannot get married. I mean, a child by a student. If a student gets pregnant, they cannot get married because you can't be a student and be married at Columbus Catholic School. I wanted to go to the media with it. I wanted the community to stand by me and support me and get my job back. But it was that whole thing like, no, just humility is being quiet, is waiting for somebody to come to you and say, we want to cover this story. And no one did. So, hey, I'm covering it now. Wash out, wash out, watch out. So I wanted to go back to the Jewish population in Iowa. And again, I love the Jewish people. I have met a lot of Jewish people in my PhD program, first time in my life that I've ever met so many Jewish people. And that has been in my PhD program, which is, as we know, a sort of upper echelons type of space, right? When you get into these graduate degree programs at a renowned university like Iowa, which nothing that I say represents the views of the University of Iowa, no connection during this podcast to the university where I'm a student at. Just saying. This is all me, but I appreciate the literature and I appreciate the time to read that I have while I am deep in study. So I will say that. But I just think the irony of like coming from a low blue collar place, low, I don't mean low, I mean like social economic under resourced place. And school, I worked in the same school district and then coming here into this like more of elite space, I meet all these Jewish people, which again, I love Jewish people. I love the classmates that I met. The professor, one of the Jewish professors that I had was very helpful in me thinking through ethnography, which is one of the methods that I'm using, ethnography of language policy. And so it's not, I'm just like, let's think, like, what is it? I shared the law, the anti-Semitism law. So I was like, well, let's look these numbers up. Well, so I did. And here's what I get. Let me share my screen so I can show you what I wouldn't even call this research. I would call this like Google. This is Google searching just real quick. And I find such fascinating things so very easily. And so that's also makes me think like, if it's so easy to find this stuff, then why do I have to look for it? Like, why don't I already know it? It's so frustrating. Anyways, this is jewishvirtuallibrary.org, Iowa-Israel cooperation. So Zionist people, they say Jewish, but if it's tied to Israel or the state of Israel, it's a Zionist. It's Zionist. And I am anti-Zionist as a national movement, period. And that is because you can't do that. It goes against international law. It goes against my moral compass, my moral conscience, and globally as well. Just in Mexico the other day, yesterday, I think they were out in the streets protesting in Mexico City to stop all aid to Israel as well. So this is a global thing, as you guys know. But state-to-state cooperation, so they document all this. Iowa to Israel, Iowa Jewish history. So I think below I wanted to show you, so the Jewish population as of 2024 was 6,385 people. So there was a whole bill that was trying to be passed for 6,000 people. I'm okay. I'm all about, you already know me. I'm all about protecting the marginalized. That's what we do over here, for real, for real. But we have 0.2% of the population being, attempted for these laws to be like weaponized against pro-Palestinian resistance movement fighters. And that's the real intention of the law. So it must be clear, we do not need a law to protect people who aren't being attacked. There might be some individual cases. Again, I'm not for any type of act of anti-Semitism, but we also have to understand that people from, Arabic people are Semitic as well. And so we really need to not only dissect what Semitism is historically and who those people are and where they come from in the world, but also that being pro-Palestinian is not being anti-Semitic. And those two, they're incommensurable. And then I got to thinking, okay, so if the Jewish population is 6,000 people, what about, we'll go back to this here in one moment, this website, because I wanted to look up a little bit deeper, but I got to thinking, well, there's this law for 6,000 people. What about how many Black people are in Iowa? So there's 121,705 people who identify as Black. That's 3.8% of the population versus 0.2. And they, consistently face judicial oppression, police oppression. I mean, and this is statistically speaking, not only obviously the stories are rampant and abundant, and I've shared many stories already with you. But there's no bills being passed to protect these residents there's real material repercussions for being Black in Iowa. I know that in Blackhawk County Jail, about 50% of the inmates are African American. And in Blackhawk County, the number is very small. I want to say 7%. I think in Waterloo, it's a little bit higher, maybe 15% or something. But Blackhawk County, let me look real quick, is 9.1%. So it roughly is 11,985 according to Google. So 11,000 residents, and 50%. That's a huge disproportionality that isn't there in the Jewish population. So I was like, what about, the Latino population? How many in Iowa? 233,706, which is 7.3% of the total population. And we also have disproportionate numbers of people being incarcerated. State, standardized tests, as you guys teachers know, time and time again, are disproportionately Black and brown students perform disproportionately worse than white and Asian, especially Asian counterparts from, middle class Asian communities rather than East Asian migrants who kind of get all subsumed into the Asian category, which we can talk about later. But with that being said, I also don't see any policies against ICE invading our communities. They are literally going and attacking migrant people, brown people who fit this stereotype or this profile of a migrant, Mexican or South American, Central American person, Caribbean person. And I don't see any bills being passed to protect the 200 and some thousand residents where the ICE agents have gone into homes, literally in Des Moines. I just read a story, going to their home, took the dad, going into places of work and rounding up people like sheep. I want a law that rejects any type of activity of any paramilitary force that is sent by the government and paid for by our tax dollars to come and arrest, kill, or detain. I guess detain and arrest are the same thing, but our neighbors and the people who hold our community together. And anybody's parents, anybody's brothers and sisters. I want them here. And they're not bugging anybody. No one's bugging anybody. That's what we really have to question is who was ever bothered? Nobody. So that is why we fight. That is why we fight, because the delusion, the myth, we can't make sense of the reality. And I'm going to look and I'm going to see, which by the way, the Tao Te Ching, I think this is so fascinating. The Tao Te Ching was just saying that in the Chinese culture, they believe their eyes are first to see or to lie to yourself. So it's like, I'll get that. I'll try to look up that. But anyways, I thought it was fascinating, the relationship to the eyes and how we judge with our eyes. And we need to sense with other senses, right? We need to be most critical of what we think our eyes are seeing and where did we get that from? So anyways, let's move on. I wanted to go back to, excuse me. I want to go back to this website here. And of course, I'll share it because I think that this is a resource that you can use in your classroom, of course. So and this is Iowa. This is Iowa. This isn't the United States. Exports to Israel, 2024. Exports to Israel, $22,542,495. This is total exports, billions from 1996 to present. Military contracts, 1,567,755. This is pure military contracts. So again, like what military, like what? Just what? Binational foundation grants, binational, agricultural research and development. And as America needs farmers, we have this whole movement in Iowa, America needs farmers. And I'm starting to see the direct Israeli infiltration in our agricultural research and development, who obviously is not going to work to ensure that the farmers and local farmers are thriving, and the government's not buying up all the land and these big farms that are being populated in Iowa, and all the contracts with the harmful chemicals they put in, which is federally passed by the law that they are immune by the federal government, that these chemicals basically you can't sue, they can be used and we can't do shit about it. Science and technology, industrial research and development, where, total grants, we're talking in the 4 millions, just endless money for a country that, we're always told we don't have it, especially in education. There's no money. This is real. This is a real life thing. There's nothing I can do. We don't have a budget. It's like, oh, what about this, the military contracts? I didn't know in Iowa we needed to spend our tax dollars on military contracts with Israel. All that needs to end immediately. Grant recipients in Iowa from U.S. Israel binational foundations. Look at University of Iowa, medical school, all of they've complete. And then the government, they actually think that we need still some sort of more Israel infiltration. And even is it even infiltration at this point, or I don't know. Fighting, boycott, divest, and sanctions. There's another House File 2331 was signed into law by Governor Terry Branstad in 2016. The law makes it illegal for a public entity in the state of Iowa to invest or enter into a contract worth over $1,000 with a company that boycotts Israel. So, the Palestinian movement for decolonization, which is the topic, these are the things that we do to ensure that the state of Israel continues to kill, murder, rape, and displace. And then later on in 2022, under the government of Reynolds, the anti-boycott legislation was expanded to include wholly owned subsidiaries, majority owned subsidiaries, parent companies, or affiliates. And so, like, so they're very organized. You see, they have a whole website. They make sure that they know which states are supporting Israel, which states aren't, and all of that. In the federal government, you have Israel flags all over the place. You don't have flags from other countries all over the place. It's just we have missions to Israel. Went on a peacekeeping trip to Israel sponsored by American Council of Young Political Leaders, which is actually freaking wild because why do we need to keep peace to a country that, like, what it peacekeeping for who? We don't need to keep peace with Israel. We funded Israel since the beginning of Israel. There's no peace there in East Asia or the Middle East because of us. We're the problem. Our tax dollars are funding violence and military exploits, escapades, whatever you want to call them, military action in Palestine. And then Kim Reynolds also traveled to Israel for a 10-day trade mission coordinated by the Iowa Economic Development Authority, which is also our money. And they had tours of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and 2 memorandums of understanding were signed between government representatives. Governor Reynolds met with Prime Minister Netanyahu during the trip as well. Governor Reynolds had previously visited Israel as lieutenant governor in 2016. So these people are homies. And when we think of all the laws and the onslaught of laws, we have to really step back and say, A, we need to know these things. And our students need to know these things. Our community needs to know these things. And we need to take a stand and fight against it. So again, I don't know. I don't want my representatives to travel on my bill to Israel. If they want to go to Palestine, please. I don't want to pay for them to go to Israel and learn anything that they could potentially learn on how to genocide a people, because we're going to be next. We already are. It says the relationship is based off of twin pillars of shared values and mutual interests. And Iowa companies received $1.6 million in foreign military financing for contracts to provide material for the Israeli offensive forces. Of course, they're going to say defensive forces, but they're not defending anything. They have invaded since day one, so they are the offensive forces. It was never their land. It was always Palestinian land. And since 1996, Iowa companies have received more than $17 million in FMF, which is foreign military financing. These include Fairfield Aluminum Castings Company in Fairfield and Vermeer Manufacturing in Pella. All right. Iowa firms profit from business with Israel. And of course, you have IBM, Microsoft, Motorola, Intel, McDonald's. They have found that it is profitable to do business in Israel. Many Iowa-based companies have also discovered the benefits of trade with Israel, including giants like Rockwell International, Amana Refrigeration, and the Aluminum Company of America. Rockwell Cedar Rapids office have long been selling military and civilian products to Israel. Currently, for example, Israel's military is buying navigation and communications equipment. Rockwell also subcontracts some of its defense work to Israel's company. The commercial division exports avionics package for Israeli business jets. And it goes on and on and on. So yeah, check that out. What does that mean? Yeah. Okay.